An ordinary day, a few offhand words, one forgotten item, and everything began to unravel, not fast, not loud, but irreversibly. She thought she was in control. He let her believe it, while quietly piecing together fragments of the truth, while staying silent, while waiting. When it all surfaced, there were no screams, no drama, just facts, just her, and the reflection of what she had destroyed. But the real turning point wasn't when she left. It was when he no longer wanted her back. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. It started quietly, mid-Saturday afternoon. Avery had gone out to look at paint samples for the guest room, a project she'd talked about endlessly but never actually acted on until now. With the house to myself, I figured it was a good time to catch up on some cleaning. Normally, I don't mess with the living room setup, but the rug hadn't been vacuumed in far too long. I pushed the couch forward a few inches, just enough to reach underneath, and that's when I saw it. A slim silver ring tucked near the wall, partly buried in dust. It had a small blue stone in the center, minimal, delicate, completely unfamiliar. Definitely not something Avery would wear. She was strictly gold, and her jewelry leaned bold and flashy, not subtle or understated. I turned it over in my hand and noticed a faint inscription inside the band. BL. That detail stuck with me. Those initials didn't belong to either of us. Not mine, not hers. I placed the ring on the kitchen counter and decided to hold off on saying anything. I wanted to see what she'd do. When Avery came back later, she was chatty and upbeat, going on about paint tones, fanning color swatches in one hand and holding an iced coffee in the other. Hey, I said casually, motioning toward the ring. Did this fall out of something of yours? She looked over and paused just a little too long. Huh, strange, she said as she breezed past it. That's probably Camille's. She dropped by last month. That looks like something she'd wear. Her explanation came too easily. I waited to see if she'd pick it up or even take a second glance. She didn't. But I remembered clearly, Camille hadn't been over since March. March, right? I asked. Avery scrunched her face like she was trying to remember. Was it March? Feels like it was more recent. Even she didn't sound sure of herself. Then, without missing a beat, she switched topics, asked if I'd remembered to water the porch plants. And just like that, the subject of the ring vanished. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I left it on the counter for a few days. She never touched it, never brought it up again. It felt like we'd both silently decided to pretend it wasn't there, but something in the air had changed. That week, I began noticing little things I'd either ignored or hadn't seen at all. She started locking the bathroom door when she showered. Not every time, but more often than before. Her phone, once left out charging in the kitchen or sitting on the coffee table, now never left her side, always face down, always silent. If I asked when she'd be back from work, her answers got vague. Probably later than usual. Depends how long the meeting runs. No need to wait up. That wasn't how our conversations used to sound. Then there was the receipt. One evening I leaned into her car to grab something and spotted a slip of paper wedged between the seat and the console. A parking ticket, dated 2 days earlier, issued in Northwood. We live in Brookline. Her office is in the opposite direction. Northwood's a half-hour north, and we don't have any connections there. No friends, no business contacts, nothing that would justify her being there. So when she pulled into the garage later, I kept my tone easy and asked, "You were in Northwood earlier this week?" She hesitated. "Northwood?" I held up the slip of paper. "Oh, right, yeah," she said. "Had to meet a vendor last minute. We met at a cafe out there." "I thought most of your vendors were local," I said. She shrugged a bit too hard. "Some are, not all." Her tone was clipped, defensive. the kind that tells you not to push further. So I didn't, at least not aloud. But in my head, I started putting things together. The ring, the bathroom door, the unanswered questions. I wasn't angry, not yet. I wasn't confronting her. I was just taking inventory. By the third week, I saw the outlines of a pattern. I'd get up early, brew coffee, check the odometer on her car before she left. Quietly, without making it a thing. Her round trip to work was about 10 miles, but some days the numbers didn't match. 15, 30, once, even 47. I didn't say a word. Then I remembered the old iPad we used to share. She hadn't used it in ages, but it was still linked to her accounts. Her email was spotless, nothing unusual. But her calendar hadn't been wiped. She worked in marketing. I'd heard countless stories about campaigns and print deadlines. But now, there were recurring appointments labeled strategy lunch. That was new. I didn't ask her about it. Instead, I ordered a small voice recorder for $25. Tiny enough to hide behind the books in the office, right where she usually sat when working from home. She never noticed. The first time she worked remotely after I planted it, I checked the device that night. Just the usual background noise, typing, her chair creaking, a few chips crunching now and then. 3 days later, she worked from home again. When I returned home from work, I sat down to listen to the latest recording. This time she'd answered a call, on speaker. The man's voice came through clear, smooth, confident. "Hey, I miss your face," he said. She laughed. "You just saw it." I paused the recording. My hands stayed still. I didn't bother rewinding. I just stared at the blinking indicator on the recorder, as if it might somehow clarify what I'd just heard. The call ran for 9 minutes. They chatted about a rooftop bar, a guy named Blake, and how he shouldn't call tonight, because he was catching on. He being me. I sat in my own office, hearing a stranger say my wife's name with the kind of casual ease that suggested ownership, like it was his to speak. I saved the recording, gave the file a label, and said nothing to anyone. A couple hours later, Avery walked through the door with a bag of Thai takeout. "Picked up your favorite," she said, setting it on the counter like it was any other evening. "Not hungry," I told her. She didn't ask why. That night it became clear. I couldn't rely on just a voice. I needed something undeniable. The old laptop in the hall closet hadn't been touched in over a year. It was Avery's, from when she freelanced before joining her current firm. While she was out picking up wine for the weekend, I plugged it in. The boot up was slow, but she hadn't changed the password. The desktop was a mess, icons and folders scattered like debris. I didn't even know what I was looking for until I opened the browser. Facebook was still signed in. So was Messenger. 2 unread conversations blinked at the top. I clicked on the first one. Blake. Their full message history appeared, stretching back weeks. Dozens of texts, full of teasing jokes, flirtation, private references I couldn't quite decipher. But I didn't need to. The meaning was clear. This wasn't some passing conversation. She was entangled with him, intimately. Then came the images, blurry selfies of the two of them. Her, wearing my hoodie, curled up beside him, on what looked unmistakably like our couch. Another photo showed them in our kitchen, each holding a glass of wine. I recognized every detail, the backsplash, the countertop, the cabinets, the place I lived. I scrolled through their thread, checking dates. They lined up perfectly with nights she'd claimed to have late meetings, extended shifts, heavy traffic. She wasn't at work. She was with him. One message included a hotel reservation. Downtown. The same night she told me her team had a client dinner. And then, one line stopped everything. Blake had written, "Still thinking about Tuesday. Can't believe we pulled it off." Avery had replied, "Right? He was literally home 30 minutes after you left." That was it. She hadn't just met him out somewhere. She brought him here, not to a hotel, not to a friend's place. Here, to our house, our bed, the life we shared. I sat there in front of the screen, motionless, not furious, not even surprised, just done. I captured screenshots of the worst of it, the messages, the photos, the reservation. I saved them to a USB stick. Then I closed the laptop slowly, like shutting the lid on something dead. Later that evening, she walked in humming, slipped off her shoes, poured herself a glass of wine, acting like it was any regular Thursday. I stood in the hallway and watched her lean on the kitchen counter like she still belonged there, like the ground hadn't caved in beneath us. Maybe for her, it hadn't. But for me, everything was different now. I didn't say a word, no confrontation, no emotional outburst. I simply went upstairs, lay beside her in bed, and stared into the ceiling until the morning light crept in. At dawn, I got up first, took the screenshots from the USB, printed out the most incriminating ones, the hotel confirmation, the messages, the photo of them laughing on our couch while she wore my clothes. I placed them into a manila envelope and centered it on the kitchen table. She got home late that night, 9:47 p.m. I remember the time exactly. I'd checked. Her tires crunched on the gravel with a hesitation that made me wonder if she already knew. She stepped inside, holding another takeout bag. "Hey," she said cheerfully, "got those burgers you love." I didn't respond. I only nodded toward the table. She spotted the envelope right away. It was impossible to miss. She stopped in place. "What's that?" "Go on," I said. "Open it." She set the bag down, stepped forward, peeled back the flap. Her hands stayed steady, but her eyes didn't. The hotel receipt came out first. Then the screenshot. Her and Blake, side by side on our couch, her wrapped in my hoodie. Her expression hardened, and then she said it. "Are you seriously going through my stuff now?" "You invited him into our home," I said flatly. She gave a sharp, dry laugh, more defensive than amused. "You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I stepped forward. "You lied to me for months, made me question myself, manipulated me into silence." "You don't understand, Julian," she snapped. "You were never really present. You were always somewhere else, always in your own head." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The damage was already done. "So, you were unfaithful." Her response was sharp. "No, you've got it wrong. It had nothing to do with him." I looked her in the eye, but he had walked through our front door. The quiet stretched between us. "I think it's time for you to go," I said. Her expression twisted in disbelief. "Excuse me? Your suitcase is already waiting by the entrance." She blinked, stunned. "You're actually doing this?" My voice didn't waver. "No, Avery. You made that choice long before today. I'm just following through." She studied me for a second. "I didn't think you'd follow through." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 2 days later, she posted it on Instagram. A black and white snapshot, Avery behind the wheel, elbow out the window, fingers tangled in her hair as if caught mid-laugh. The caption read, "Sometimes you don't realize the door was locked until you outgrow the room." Hashtags: healing, fresh start. The replies came fast. "So proud of you. You're glowing. Takes real strength to walk away from a toxic situation." I didn't comment, didn't text her, didn't react, but I read every single reply. To her followers, I was the villain. To her, I was the barrier she had to shed to breathe. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. The implication was obvious. Avery was rewriting the past, and her audience swallowed it whole. Some mutual friends sent polite, awkward texts. "Hey man, saw Avery's update, hope you're okay." "Didn't see that coming. You holding up?" I responded the same way to each. "Life moves on. I'm doing all right." I didn't bring up Blake, or the hotel keycards, or how our living room had become her stage. If anyone wanted to hear the whole truth, they could have asked. No one ever did. Except Delilah. We'd worked together once, briefly. Nothing serious. A few months on a project. There'd been a moment, fleeting chemistry. She had flirted. I didn't engage. I was married. Still, I remembered. Under Avery's picture, Delilah posted a single line. Growth is good, but truth matters more. No likes, no replies. But she didn't delete it. The next day, another comment appeared. This caption feels edited, like something important got left out. It disappeared an hour later, but not before I saw it. And then, silence. Avery stopped replying to anyone, stopped posting altogether. 1 week later, her profile went private. I wasn't surprised. She'd shaped the narrative, right up until the seams started showing. And when they did, she didn't defend it. She vanished. That told me everything, not just about her, but about how fragile a false version of reality is when the light finally hits it. 7 days after that, I boxed up what was left of her life at my place. Photos and frames, a few stray blouses, that peppermint tea mug she used every winter. I didn't destroy anything. I didn't leave a note. I dropped the boxes off at a storage facility not far from her sister's condo and sent her the code. She never responded. That was all right. The house felt still, not hollow, just reset. I rearranged the living room furniture, not to erase her, but to make the space feel like mine again. I found her ring tucked away in a drawer and dropped it in a church donation bin the next day. Started running again in the mornings, the first time in years. Reopened a personal project I hadn't touched since 2020. Treated myself to dinners, just me, solo table, local diners with sticky menus and booths that creaked. It helped. And then, one evening, I saw Delilah. She was browsing the nonfiction shelf in a little bookstore downtown. Our eyes caught briefly. Recognition flickered. She smiled. "Hey, Julian." I nodded. "Delilah." Been a minute. We exchanged small talk. Nothing heavy. Books, the weather, favorite coffee spots. Then, just as we were parting, she leaned a little closer and said quietly, "I always knew you weren't the bad guy. Just thought you deserved to hear that." I didn't ask her to elaborate. Her voice was calm. She'd seen the post, heard the whispers, connected the dots. "Thanks," I said. "That means more than you know." I walked out of that store without buying a thing, but I felt lighter, not triumphant, not bitter, just clear. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally emerge from something that tried to convince you to stay quiet forever. A few days later, Delilah and I met for coffee. There was no marriage in the way this time. One coffee became two. Then dinner. Then something steady, something real, not a second chance, a first, honest beginning. We had space now, no masks, no secrets. And this time, I didn't miss the way her smile made me feel. 3 weeks passed. Then Avery texted, "Can we meet? Just talk." I let the message sit for a full day, not out of calculation. I just needed time to figure out if I still cared enough to bother. We met at a quiet cafe across town, neutral territory. She wore a sweater I'd given her 2 birthdays ago, no makeup. Hair pulled back, trying to look like the version of her I used to love. She got there first, and sat down. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice softer now, a gentleness settling into her features. I nodded slightly. "What was it you wanted to say?" I asked. She paused, fingers curling tighter around the mug she held. "I never thought it would come to that," she admitted after a long silence. "You mean the truth about how it actually ended?" I responded. Her jaw tightened, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "I know I made mistakes," she said, barely above a whisper. "I just didn't know how to fix it. It felt like you'd stopped seeing me. And bringing someone else into our relationship, into our house, that was your answer to that?" I asked. Her eyes dropped to the table, then rose again to meet mine. "I know I hurt you," she murmured. "I know that." She took a breath, steadying herself. "I'm not suggesting we get back together, Just maybe we could talk about something else, maybe a different kind of start. I studied her carefully. She looked unchanged. Her voice was the same. But something underneath it all was off, like a well-made copy, visibly identical, but hollow where it counted. This wasn't just infidelity, Avery, I said, my tone level. You removed yourself from us entirely. Her brows drew together, confused. What does that mean? It means the version of me who would have stayed, who might have tried to work through the wreckage. You erased him the moment you chose someone else. He's gone. She sat back, stunned. Maybe she had expected some emotional response, maybe even a glimmer of forgiveness. What she got instead was resolution. I hope Blake was worth it, I said, not bitterly, just with finality. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. The paperwork is already underway. I rose, placed enough cash on the table to cover both our drinks, and walked out without a backward glance. That was the moment the real goodbye happened. Not when she packed her bags. Not when she rewrote the narrative online. Not even when she showed up hoping to patch things over. It was the second I let go of fixing, let go of asking, and embraced something sharper than closure. It didn't feel like an end. It felt like release. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.